Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Today, we have my full review of the Benchmade Osborne 9400. This is the automatic version of the 940. Big 940 fan. I think you guys all know this. I've said multiple times. If you're a real knife nerd, that's one knife you should probably at least experience, if not own. Just an iconic EDC design. And now they have finally made it in a push button auto version. And what's cool about it is not the kind of axis lock auto they use on some of their other models. This is actually just a conventional push button auto. It works great. We'll get into that a lot more. It does only come in this colorway right now, and you are looking at a price of $230, $229.50 if you want to be precise. And it does only come in this one colorway. I've made no bones about the fact that I'm not a fan of green, but I totally get why they did this one in green, because it is green with the purple backspacer, much like the original 940, exactly like the original 940, exactly like the base 940 you can still buy. So I totally get why they did that. This is a black class knife. It comes in a black class box instead of the blue class box like the 940. Black class is for your tactical people, your law enforcement operators, stuff like that. Makes sense because this is an auto. But if you want to know what it looks like, yeah, it looks like a 940. It's exactly the same. I'm going to bring out my personal 940 right now. I used to own 4 or 5 of these at a time at one point. Actually, I only have one now. This is a 940-1, the carbon fiber S90V. But as you can see, yeah, it's exactly the same. It's just instead of having an axis lock, you got a push button auto. And I don't think that's a bad thing because I like the 940 a whole lot. And I think in this, especially when it comes to the blade, which we'll get to, I think they took the opportunity to make a few little improvements here. So yeah, you were getting aluminum handles, aluminum backspacer, S30V steel for $229.50. Not an expensive knife at all, but honestly, for push button autos like the ones I'm going to show you momentarily, that's about the ballpark. It really is. And I think if you're looking at the base 940 is 187. This is almost kind of a better deal, sort of, than the regular 940. So, yes, it's not inexpensive, but I don't think it's too crazily priced when you get into the automatic market. But let's do some specs and size comparisons before we get too much farther here. You have, again, exactly the same as 940, overall length of 7.9 inches, blade length of 3.4 inches, blade thickness of 0.12 inches, handle thickness very slim at 0.41 inches, and a weight of 2.65 ounces. Now let's do some size comparisons. We're going to brush through a few of these, and then we'll talk more extensively about some of the other ones because it is just a 940. A lot of you guys have seen that. So here it is against your Spyderco Paramilitary 2, against your Spyderco Para 3. It has to be a lightweight one here. I'm sure you would exist, even though it does blend in with this background a little bit. And we'll bring out some other Benchmades. We have your full-size Griptilian and the full-size Bug Out, which I'm happy to have back because I'm not going to lie to you, I lost it for a couple of days. That's I don't know what it is with Bug Outs. I'm always losing them. I think they're just so light. But you can see it's more almost closer to the Bug Out. It's like right between the two, I guess, but it still kind of feels a bit closer to the Bug Out. And lastly, let's bring out some autos here to compare it to. Some of the knives I think people will also be shopping for when they're looking for this. We're going to start out with a couple of ProTechs. We have the Invictus, which you can bet your bottom dollar there's going to be a battle to the death between these two. And then we have the Newport, one of the more popular ones. And again, another reminder that Brian needs to clean his blades. So you can see it's sort of between those two in length and girth and all that stuff. Then we're going to put the Newport away for a minute. Bring out another one. The Microtech LUDT, which again, I assure you exists. It's just the exact same color as my background. That's why I got it that way. That's why I brought this out for a size comparison, but also, I don't know, 2-way battle to the death between these two or 3-way between all three. They're all pretty similar in price. They're all push-button autos. Yeah, I think it may be 3-way. You guys let me know in the comments if you just want to see these two or all three, because the LUDT is a bit harder to get than these other ones. All right, now let's talk about this knife individually. This is a place that I think they did make a slight improvement. I This is my 940-1. It's not that old. I think it's maybe a year old, and it's about 28 thousandths behind the edge. This is pretty much an identical blade, but it is ground thinner. This is only about 21 thousandths behind the edge, so not bad at all. It is fairly slicey. That's always been a problem with the 940 is they're usually pretty thick behind the edge, and it's a very abrupt flat grind or saber grind, whatever you want to call it. This one is just a little bit thinner, and it does seem to slice just a little bit better than the 940. I was comparing them, hacking through some cardboard. This was provided to me by the manufacturer, by the way, like a week and a half ago. So even though you can't buy them till tomorrow, I have had this for quite a while and been able to do quite a few cutting tests with it and stuff like that. And I do think it does cut a little bit better than a regular 940. And I don't think it's just because it's new, because I do a pretty good job of keeping track of my blades and keeping them sharp and stuff. I don't think it's just because it's new. It is definitely thinner behind the edge. So kudos there. I like that a lot. Now let's talk about the ergos. I just got to snap it again. We're going to talk about that more. But ergonomically, it's a 940, and 940s are really good. It fits in the hand very well. It does come with the split arrow clip or the other word clip, which I think works well in 940. We'll talk about more when we get to the carry, but it is very good ergonomically. I can, as it is with every 940 with this clip on it, I can feel just that little bit of, not a hot spot, but I can feel the ramp there just a tiny bit. But other than that, it's fine. I have pretty darn long fingers, and the 940 still always seems to have been okay. Sometimes when my fingers are really like digging into my palm on the other side there, I think a knife is too small. They don't quite dig in, but yeah, they are at the edge of it. But again, I have large size hands, but I have really long fingers. So if it fits my hand and it still feels like it fills my hand okay, it's probably going to feel okay on yours too, unless you have big, giant, long, silly fingers. As far as the carry goes, yeah, again, it carries like a 940. It's actually lighter than a regular 940. The regular 940 in this same sort of spec is 2.9 something ounces. This is 2.65. And by the way, it does get the golf clap. They claim 2.65. That's what my scale said. So love it when people get it right down to the 100th. But stock clip is not deep carry, but there's not a whole lot sticking out there. It's not too bad. It's very slender, obviously, no flipper tab because it's an auto, and the 940 is, a thumb stud, so nothing there. And it's a pleasure to carry. It's very light. It's very slim. Now, I will say I put this clip back on it for this review. This is the stock clip. This is not what I carry it with. I carry it with a bug out clip. I like it a little better. Just have that little bit more deep carry. Used to do the same with my regular 940, but then I got some carbon fiber thing off Etsy, which I'm still not sure I'm going to keep or not. I might get another bug out clip to put on it, but I like these little bug out clips on 940s. I think they work really well. And the handle is long enough that you don't get a hot spot from it. Because the problem is, sometimes when you go to put a deep carry clip on a knife, that means right where your palm is, you have a high spot. But the 940 is long enough. That's never been a problem with me. The action on this is darn good. It bangs. Absolutely, for sure. It is. I was not expecting it to hit this hard. It honestly does hit as hard as a ProTech or a Microtech out the side. It's just as smooth and hits just as hard as either of those. I'll bring one out here to compare. So here's the Invictus. I think it might even hit a bit harder than the Invictus, honestly. Yeah, I think it does hit just a little bit harder than the Invictus. And bring out the LUDT. Yeah, I think it might hit just a little bit harder than either of those. Part of that's because it has a thinner, lighter blade, but yeah, it kicks, and that's kind of what you want in auto. I mean, that's why we get them. It does have a safety, but it's not an obtrusive one. Like the Invictus has this big old safety button here on the side, which I never use. I've never used it on this either, but it does have a safety up here on top. So if you're worried about the button going off, and I guess, the button is recessed. There's a little bit sticking up, but I still don't think there's any danger of it actually going off in your pocket. But it does have the safety if that's what you want. So, that's a nice thing to have. So, what do I think of this overall? I think this is going to be a huge hit for Benchmade. I wish I had the Mediator here. They came out with the Mediator a while ago, which is a bit more tactical looking, but very similarly shaped. And everybody said, oh, it's like an automatic 940. And then Benchmade a couple weeks later said, surprise, no, here's the automatic 940. And I think automatics are becoming a bit more popular lately. There seems to be a bit of a boom. And I just think this is a natural progression for the line. And again, my only issue, I wish it wasn't green, but again, I completely understand why it is. Heritage-wise, it makes total sense. And a lot of people don't hate green nearly as much as I do. I do love the purple on the back spacer, though. That's pretty cool. It's lightweight. It's just as light as a regular 940. If you live in a state where autos are legal, is this as fun to fidget with as a regular 940? No. But I think if I lived in a state, where I could carry an auto all the time, I might actually prefer this over the base 940. And I love the 940 because it's so fidgety and fun, but there's something about that auto bang. And again, the blade is just a little bit thinner. I have not had a very recent 940. Like I said, this is a little over a year old. Somebody let me know in the comments if you have calipers that can measure the thickness behind the edge. Are all new 940s like that, or is it something specific to the 9400? Just want to know. Whatever it is, I hope they continue doing it, because that's been one of the only flaws with the 940s. They're a bit thick behind the edge, and now this one isn't. So excellent, excellent knife. And I think the 229 is not that bad. Like the Invictus that I'm comparing it to is 154 cm steel, and these are, 280? So not bad. I have no issues with the price, which sometimes I do with Benchmade, but this one I have no issues with the price whatsoever. That's just kind of what autos go for. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.